It's past 4:30, so I'll officially open the meeting. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we meet on and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. With the housekeeping, if you're asked to evacuate, you exit via the doors leading out onto the building onto the footpath and await further instructions. This meeting is being streamed live and recorded and made publicly available on Council's website. Persons attending or speaking in public forum should refrain from making defamatory statements. Before I go any further with our agenda, two things to note. Councillor Davis is running a tad late. He's on his way. He's notified me of that, so he'll be here shortly. The next item that I'll bring to Council's attention is the report from our Auditor's report from the Auditor's office. So we might take care of that right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We did prepare a little presentation, so I'll test the technology. Hopefully it works. Please let me know if you can see the presentation slides.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to present at your council meeting today. My name is Ricky Jang. I'm a Financial Audit Director from the Audit Office of New South Wales. Here today with me is Irene Zavaras, partner from EY Canberra, our audit service provider. Before I hand over to Irene to talk about the specifics of this year's audit, I'd like to just share with you about our office bicentenary journey and also give you a brief overview of our Refresh annual work program. A few weeks ago, on the 8th of November, our office celebrated its 200-year birthday. On the same day, 200 years ago, public sector auditing was introduced in New South Wales with the appointment of William Lithgow, the first auditor of colonial revenue, which later evolved to the role of the Auditor General. Since then, 23 Auditor Generals were appointed to help New South Wales Parliament to hold government accountable for its use of public resources. The current Auditor General, Bola Oyetunji, is the 24th Auditor General for New South Wales, who commenced his role earlier this year. Our office obtained the mandate to audit local government in 2016. Since then, our mandate was further expanded in 2022 to include the follow the dollar power, which enables us to audit the activities of non-government entities that are using public money to deliver the outcome for the state. Bola, our new Auditor General, tabled his first annual work program in August this year. The annual work program reflects the priority areas the Auditor General intends to focus on during the first 3 years of his term. The topics and focus areas in this program respond to the contemporary issues facing the state government, local councils, and the universities in New South Wales. The 5 key focus areas, particularly in the performance audit area, include effective advice and decision making, First Nations people in New South Wales, environment and sustainability, including climate risk, efficient and responsible use of public resources, and last but not least, cybersecurity. We also consider the use and the governance of AI. This slide shows the planned performance audit we plan to perform or conduct for local government in 24-25 and also the next 2 years. So for this financial year, roads asset management, that audit has actually been completed, and the report was recently tabled to the Parliament. This report actually assessed whether 3 of the selected councils effectively manage their road assets to include detailed findings for each of the 3 selected councils, plus some key learnings or lessons for the wider local government sector. The report is currently up on our website, and I would encourage the council and management to have a read of that report. The two other areas that we plan to focus on this year, one is on coastal management reforms, and the other one on long-term financial planning. In the next 2 years, we plan to look at climate risks, Western Sydney Aerotropolis, performance management and monitoring, waste management, and also we'll be looking at the order of governance issues within a particular council. We are currently in the process of preparing and drafting the 2023-24 Local Government Sector Report to Parliament. Similar to the previous years, the report will summarise the audit outcome for all of the councils and JOs in the state, highlighting any issues with the quality and the timeliness of financial reporting. We'll be looking at the financial controls, particularly any common management letter themes and around asset management, long-term sustainability, and compliance with laws and regulations. We continue to focus on IT and cyber controls, and also particularly following on from the recent performance audit on cybersecurity in local government to obtain some high-level themes across the sector. We also plan to look at a few areas in the governance space. The first one on fraud control, particularly around the training for fraud control, annual code of conduct attestation, and also fraud risk assessment. We also plan to look at management of the conflict of interest, business continuity plan and crisis management, and also internal audit, whether the function is in place, well-resourced and effective. Now I'll hand over to Irene to talk to you about the report on the conduct of the audit.
Thank you, Ricky. We recently completed our audit of your council's 2024 financial statements, and I'm pleased to report to you today that we issued a clean opinion for your general purpose financial statements and your special purpose financial statements, which means that the financials contain no material misstatements and they present fairly. Note G6-1 of the general purpose financial statements include 6 key performance ratios. Council met 2 out of the 6 industry benchmarks, which are set by the Office of Local Government. Council did not achieve the benchmarks for the other 4 ratios. They are the operating performance ratio, which was predominantly driven by a decrease in grants and contributions for operating purposes, and an increase in depreciation. Own source operating revenue ratio was not met, mainly because the council continued to rely on grant funding for operations. However, the ratio has improved compared to prior years. The unrestricted current ratio was 1.5 times in the current year, which is just below the Office of Local Government benchmark to be greater than 1.5 times. And the ratio indeed has improved from prior years. The rates and annual charges outstanding percentage. Management has advised that through COVID, droughts and rains, they've had significant impact on the ability of rural ratepayers to pay rates and annual charges when they fall due. And consequently, that one has been not met as well. In the income statement, the rates and annual charges revenue increased by 1.2 million, which is due to a rate peg increase of 3.7% and an increase in the number of rateable assessments and annual charges for residential and business land types compared to the prior year. The grants and contributions revenue increased by 4.1 million, mainly due to the increase in capital grants. The operating result for the year was a result of 14.9 million, which was $6.1 million higher than the prior year, and again, mainly due to an increase in grants and contributions of $4.1 million. And the net operating result before capital grants and contributions was $6.6 million in deficit, which was a decrease of 3.3 million from the prior year, primarily driven by the decrease in operating grants and contributions. The cash and investments increased from 49.7 million to 64 million, which is mainly due to an increase in receipts from grants and contributions. And this year, $39.2 million was externally restricted, which has increased slightly from the prior year. Overall, the council's cash and investments not subject to external restrictions and internal allocations, has increased from $3.3 million at last year to $18.5 million at the end of this current 2024 year. On infrastructure, Council renewed $25.1 million of infrastructure plant, property and equipment in the 2024 year, and this was mainly spent on roads, repairing assets damaged by natural disasters and plant and equipment. A further $6.1 million was spent on new assets, including roads, bridges, capital works in progress, and other open space and recreational assets. And finally, we'd like to thank Council's finance team for their professionalism and cooperation during the audit. Happy to take on any questions.
Thank you very much for that report. Do any councillors have any questions of our auditor in regard to that report? It would look like everyone's happy and content with the report. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you again for presenting, and hopefully we can do it all again next year with the results improving on the same level they improved in the last financial year. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, councillors, the next item on the agenda is public forum, and we have a speaker today in public forum, Mrs. Heather Benny, and she's speaking against a motion which is item 12.21-24313, the dwelling house and earthworks at 3 Nellie Place, Young. So we'd like to come to the microphone, and as I mentioned earlier on, you have 5 minutes to talk, and then if you get to the 4-minute mark, I'll give you a little warning you've got a minute to go. So the floor's yours.
Lovely. Good afternoon, Mayor and Councillors. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to discuss our concerns regarding the proposal development at 3 Nellie Place, Young. We are number 1 Nellie Place, the southern side of the proposed development. Our living spaces face north, and this played a large factor on our purchase of the property, as natural light, privacy and precious winter sun is extremely important to us. Our first major concern relates to the proposed building location, which is only 1 metre off our boundary fence. This will take the majority of our natural light, winter sun and privacy to our living space, kitchen and outdoor entertainment area and our extended yard. When purchasing the property nearly 2 years ago, we were advised there was no high-density housing permitted in the street and single-storey dwellings only. Yet this proposed plan will have the dwelling sit 1 metre from our boundary, and we will have a towering wall as tall as our entire property, including our roof line. This is without adding the proposed roof line to the measurement. This will in turn reflect more the height of a 2-storey dwelling, not the single storey as permitted in our street. We therefore request deeper excavation on the land to allow the proposed development to sit in the landscape more comfortably and be in keeping with a single storey home. As you can see via the southern elevation boundary.
Excuse me, yeah, I'm sorry, you're not,
Okay.
that's not permitted. Thank
All
you.
right, sorry. That's what I received from council. As you can see by the southern elevation diagram, there is a bedroom and 3 other windows which are located directly opposite our living spaces. The diagram clearly shows these windows will be well and truly above the 1.8 metre existing fence height. A fence at 1.8 would normally provide the necessary privacy for both neighbours, but given the proposed increase to the natural ground level of approximately 1 to 1.5 metres on the southern eastern corner, we will have windows starting at approximately 2.5 metres above ground level and will leave the height of the fence redundant, thus providing no privacy to our living spaces and outdoor entertainment. This will negatively affect our enjoyment of our home, as we are semi-retired and are usually at home the majority of the day in these spaces. In reference to the point, the property located at 5 Nellie Place has been set back from the boundary fence approximately 4 to 5 metres, not including the initial garage. This enables the proposed house at 3 Nellie to have the natural light and winter sun. Further to this point, the proposed northern elevation shows it is set back 4.1 metres from the boundary, which is providing them a total of 9 metres from the number 5's building line. This will allow them also to have natural light and winter sun. In stark contrast, we will only have 1 metre, being staring at a towering brick wall nearly the length of our property, with no winter sun and little natural light, given the proximity and the height of the proposed walls and roof height being similar to a 2-storey building. I also note that 7 Nellie Place has a setback, not including the garage, allowing number 5 to have natural light and winter sun. I would also like to point out that the existing fence lines of number 5 and number 7 Nellie Place cover more than half of the above neighbours' property's windows, providing them with privacy to both neighbours. So the precedent has been established there to request a further setback for the boundary and deeper excavations to lower the overall height of the building rather than the proposed increase on ground level. This must be better for all residents in the long term to allow privacy and provide good neighbourhood relations. We therefore have no choice but to lodge an objection to the proximity to the proposed development to our boundary and overall height. We request the building located footprint be adjusted with a total setback between 2.5 and 3 metres and request deeper excavations to lower the height, allowing it to sit more comfortably as a single-storey dwelling from the street and closer to the natural ground level, thus providing very basic minimal light to our property and a small chance of winter sun and some form of privacy. These changes still provide the proposed development to 2.6 metres to the northern boundary, plus approximately 5 metres from the number 5 Nellie building line setback, thus giving them a total of 7.5 metres access to natural light, winter sun on their own property boundary. My final point I would like to make, I believe this dwelling is being built to be sold by the builder. Making these proposed changes for him, I understand, might be slightly inconvenient, but when it's completed and sold on, he will move on to the next project and there will be no long-term effects for him. However, if the setback and height issue isn't addressed positively in our favour, it will be ourselves who will be adversely affected and left with long-term issues of lack of natural light, winter sun, privacy and the inability to enjoy our property in our retirement as we had planned and hoped. In requesting these changes...
Thank you, Speaker. Yeah, we've run out of time.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Start again. Next item is the Statement of Ethical Obligations. And I take that as read by all, which leads us on to attendance. And in regard to attendance, I've got a note on my screen for me and a motion that I will ask that Council accept the application to attend the meeting by digital means with written confirmation from Councillor Flannery due to medical reasons, and accept the application to attend the meeting by digital means with written confirmation from Councillor Blackwell due to being overseas. Do I have a mover? Councillor Stadmiller. Seconded. Councillor Mackie. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Councillors. The next item on the agenda is the expressions of sympathy, and I would ask all to be upstanding, please. We partake in a moment of silence for the following: Colin Marion, Kathleen Gibson, Gwenda Bowring, Joan Woodhouse, Derek Annell, George Bertfield, Gloria Sweeney, Cecil Carr, Heather McCormick, Leilani Abano, and Margaret Murray. Thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda is the confirmation of the minutes. Do I have a mover for the confirmation of the minutes from October? Moved Councillor Douglas, seconded Councillor Foreman. Sorry, it was Councillor Foreman. I thought it was first there. Yep. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is any disclosures of interest. Do we have any disclosures of interest tonight in regards to any council business?
I do, but I've actually left the paper at home. I can go through and give you the numbers.
To give you the numbers, okay?
Yep.
Deirdre might just jot them down. Okay, Councillor Davis.
It is boundary. Sorry, one sec. It is the 12.20 -24/312 for the extension on Wickham's Lane. And yep. And 12.23 -24/315 for the multi-dwellings at 189 Nasmith Street. Yep, and that's all. Oh yeah, I'll stay in and vote and debate on it, please. Thank you.
Non-pecuniary. Non-pecuniary. Thank you. Thank you for that, Councillor Davis. Next item on the agenda is a mayoral minute. There's no mayoral minutes. The next item on the agenda, I would ask for a mover and a seconder for the Mayor's calendar report for October, November 2024. Councillors, I think it's all there. It's been pretty hectic. If there's any questions on any of those items that I attended, please feel free to ask me. Otherwise, I'd ask for a mover and a seconder. Moved, Councillor Stadmiller. Seconded. Thank you. Councillor Gallo. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. The next item is councillors' reports. And as per practice, could I have a mover and a seconder to start with? Councillor Foreman, Councillor Davis, thank you. We'll go around the room. Councillor Foreman, anything you'd like to add to your report?
I have given the information to
Yep.
Deirdre, but I went to the Young Mosque opening day on the 23rd of the 11th, and I also did an ABC Riverina radio interview as a committee member for the Domestic Violence Reference Group regarding the Domestic Violence Purple Day that was held. Thank you.
So that was done as the domestic, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I'll take
yeah,
that later. Councillor,
yeah, it was.
Councillor Davis,
Nothing to add.
thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Mackie,
As minuted.
thank you. Councillor Douglas,
As minuted, and I also just wanted to thank the Young Mosque for their open day. It was a very welcoming and lovely day.
thank you. Councillor Stadmiller,
Mr. Mayor, I don't normally list everything down, but just a couple of things come to mind. I did have a meeting there with the general manager and yourself and Norm also, if I can just refer to Norm as Norm.
no, you can't at council.
I'm trying to think of his last name. That's all.
The direct CFO,
CFO, Chief Financial Officer, sorry. Regarding to constituent inquiries, which were informative, and also went to the local government conference at Tamworth with the Mayor. It was good to see, I think the conference actually get through the motions for once and not turn into something that can be wasteful. So it was really productive. So that was good. Thank you.
thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gallo,
As minuted, nothing else to report.
thank you. Councillor Langford,
Yeah, as minuted, nothing else to report.
thank you. Councillor Dodd,
Nothing further to add, but I would like to thank the staff for the councillor induction bus tours. They were very useful. Thank you.
thank you for that. And just Councillor Stadmiller touched on the motions that were moved at the local New South Wales Conference and the 110 that we've got through, I'd just like to report to all that the motion that Councillor Flannery had me put forward in regard to the dead timber on the side of the roads was put at the conference. If a motion is put because of the time process and there's no dissent, it's taken as moved and carried, and you just moved on. And sure enough, there was about 15 leading up to ours and there was no dissent, and they moved on and we came to ours and there was dissent from Metropolitan Council about the one-legged two-eyed green frog or whatever it was. And but we spoke for our motion and it was accepted by the conference, so it will be looked into. So I thought I'd better report on that. Yeah. All right, that being said, we're to move into seconder. And Councillor, we got a couple on. Councillor, sorry, my apologies. Councillor Flannery.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Meeting as minuted, also attended the Harden and the Murrumburra I've got a mental blank, remembrance ceremonies, which were very, very well done. And the Hennessy graduation dinner, which was also a wonderful event, and very pleased to hear about the motion that was at least adopted. Now we've got to get through state parliament, which may be a more difficult process. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Blackwell.
Nothing from me, thank you.
Thank you. So I've had a moved and seconded, and all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, Councillor. Liz, I should say, in the plural. So we have Community Recognition Scheme, and we have two nominations to be recognised. First one is by Councillor Blackwell. Would you like to speak to your Community Recognition Scheme, Councillor?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. The Young Mosque has been a valued part of our community for over 30 years now, having been established in 1994. It's not only a place of worship for the region's many proud Muslims, but also a place of great community connection. As an organisation, it's been a very generous community member. In the last month alone, they've raised money for Riding with the Disabled, community radio, and many other worthwhile local causes. They've contributed to and facilitate many local youth programs, and they've done great work in building bridges with the Hilltops community in particular. Every year they participate in National Mosque Open Day that was held on Saturday the 23rd. That's a great event which really showcases the diversity of our region and encourages everyone to learn about not just the mosque, but the people of the broader region, hear about Islam and meet members of that community. I just want to congratulate them for another successful open day and also for their 30 years of continuous presence, service and generosity with Hilltops.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dodd has a nomination. Councillor Dodd, would you like to speak to yours, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I would like to congratulate the Young Regional Conservatorium on celebrating 40 years of bringing music education to the community. It began in 1984 by a dedicated group of volunteers, and it was groundbreaking back then. There wasn't those sort of institutions in the country, and it started as Young Regional School of Music. It has continued to grow over those 40 years, and you can read it there, but it's got additional premises. It offers programs in schools. It's an outstanding example of a community-led initiative. It's positively impacted the lives of many, fostering a love of music and providing opportunities for artistic expression throughout the Hilltops region. And I would just like to congratulate them on 40 years of inspiring creativity. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So could I have a mover and a seconder for those recognitions? Councillor Foreman and Councillor Gallo. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, we move on. Before we go to the General Manager's report, I would ask for a mover and a seconder for me to bring forward an item on our agenda, as we had a speaker in public forum, and that item is item 12.21-24-313, the dwelling house and earthworks at 3 Nellie Place, Young. Do I have a mover and a seconder to bring that item forward? Councillor Douglas, thank you, and seconded Councillor Davis. All those in favour? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. So, councillors, we go to jump to page 869. It is in the paper copy. Dwelling house and earthworks at 3 Nelly Place, Young. The recommendation is that council grant consent development application number DA 2024/0136 for a dwelling house and earthworks at lot 2 DP 1270576, 3 Nelly Place, Young, subject to conditions generally sent out in attachment 1. Do I have a mover? Move Councillor Davis, seconded Councillor Douglas. Would you like to speak to the item, councillor, mover? You mean yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Mayor. Just a few questions. It says window 9, 10, and 12 at a seal height of 1 meters measured from the finished floor level, and therefore there will be no overlooking expected. Is that into 1 Nelly Place?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, indeed, that is into 1 Nelly Place.
Yep. And I did go for a drive around yesterday to all the DAs, proposed DAs. I did notice there was privacy screens already in 1 Nelly Place. I don't know if that was a factor for privacy or sunlight, to block out the sunlight. I just wanted to, I don't know if that's a question for you or...
Yes, so through you, Mr. Mayor, I cannot answer that question because it's a related property.
Yep.
I can talk generally about the solar concern, if that would be helpful to the...
Yep.
It appears it may be at this stage.
Yeah, so just want to acknowledge that the assessment team very much took the concern from the submitter, to heart. And on page 876 of the report, you'll see a comprehensive summary of the assessment of the matters. So first off, on the privacy, yes, that was taken into account, and because of the height of the window sills, the assessment was there wouldn't be the overlooking that would be concerned. In terms of a side setback, this is quite an important one, is that while it's a 3 metre setback, a 1 metre setback is not uncommon for residential development, and more another consideration is that there's a whole other planning pathway called a complying development, and they have a 900 mil setback. So this is greater than that, which is the other option. In terms of building height, you can have up to 2 stories permitted in the residential 1 zone. This is a 1-story building, so well within the building height. And then in terms of solar access, the Land and Environment Court's given very specific guidance as to the minimum expectation, which is that at the winter solstice, there are 3 hours minimum sunlight per day. And this proposal has a minimum of 4 hours sunlight, so it meets that minimum threshold as well.
Thank you for that information. Do we have anyone speak against the recommendation? No. Anyone else like to speak for the recommendation, seconder? Councillor Douglas?
As looking at the development, it would appear that there is land, it's already developed. There's houses already around. I feel that regardless of what house is going to be put there, that's what that block is for. It's designed for a house block. So I see no dramas with approving this development.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Stadmiller wishes to speak against.
Just a question, if I may, the director.
Question to the director.
How often do we come across a height like this where it does impact? Because I know of an example where, say, a 5 metre shed's gone up within sort of a metre of a fence line and sort of had quite a lot of shade occur on the neighbouring property.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, it's not uncommon in Young because of the topography of Young, and particularly where development's now happening. So a lot of the easy development site has well and truly been taken up. So where future development is you've got this balance of working with the topography. So one of the key considerations is reducing the amount of cut and fill that happens and working with the natural topography, but also respecting the balance that with the privacy concerns of adjoining neighbours. So this type of development and this type of assessment is pretty much par for the course for us in Young in particular.
Thank you for that. There's no more discussion on the matter. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Flannery. Thank you, councillors. The recommendation is adopted. So, on that note, we go back to the General Manager's report. Item 12.1. Hand over to you, Sir General Manager.
Through you.
The recommendation is, could I have a mover and a seconder that we receive and note the executive staff? Councillor Foreman, thank you. Councillor Dodd, thank you. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Mr. General Manager.
Mr. Mayor, we're not allowed to ask any questions, or what is the protocol? Can I be reminded?
Yeah, no, we're not allowed to question any questions on this. This is just a calendar to let councillors know what staff have been up to, and there's no questions to be asked. Thank you.
So we're allowed to ask about, not necessarily why we have a barbecue for a deck pour. Is it usual? Is it possible to ask the General Manager why we're having a barbecue for concrete pour of a deck which we're paying $1 million for?
Councillor, we'll have to bring that up under some other item on the agenda if it's there, because the protocol is that there's no questions to be asked in regard to this matter.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move on. Any comments regarding your report? Okay, so it was moved, seconded, and all those in favour, we'll go again. Accepting it was unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to item 12.2, which is the General Manager's annual leave cover, 30 December 2024 to 11 January 2025. Recommendation is there in front of you, councillors. Moved, Councillor Foreman.
Second that.
Seconded, Councillor, who said that? Councillor Stadmiller, sorry, thank you. Any questions in regard to that recommendation? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. That'll give the Director of Planning time to limber up. Sorry, I just had to mention that. Now I've lost my place now for being funny. Yeah, okay. 12.3, the draft annual report 2023-2024 and state of our region report 2021 to 2024. The recommendation is there in front of you, councillors. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Stadmiller and Councillor Flannery. Thank you. Any questions in regard? Question, Councillor Flannery.
Question on Earth on the report when we get the preliminary information. Background, statutory provisions, attachments, we've got no financial implications. Is there a reason we don't have any financial implications of a report of this nature? I imagine it's just an oversight. A few other questions. The name of the new library, it's stated in the report, has been the Hilltops Young High School Library. Is that the official name? If I could, someone could advise that.
Put me on the spot or not? It most certainly is. And there,
Okay.
I could go back and speak for 4 or 5 hours on it if you really like, but that is the name.
So-
While it was not ideal, it was something that I had no intention of giving any leeway, and neither did the other party. So that's what was agreed on in the finish, because it was definitely Hilltops community who contributed to that building.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I was of the understanding it was to be called the Hilltops Community Library, but it's obviously been changed.
The word community was bandied about, and I suggested that exactly what you've just said, but the comeback was for Hilltops Young High School Community Library. So that's where we got to. As I said, the compromise is what the name is.
Okay. Page 49 says the financial sustainability remains a key priority. So I imagine there should have been something about financial sustainability in the cover sheet. Page 52, we described as Southern Tablelands. I don't think any map anywhere would describe us as the Southern Tablelands. I think that needs to be, I think it's an insult actually that we're listed as the Southern Tablelands. We've always been the Southwest Slopes since I was born. We've been the Southwest Slopes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is what we are now categorised as in conversation with the state government and various departments. We are Southern Tablelands.
By who? I mean, we're geographically, topographically, we're not tablelands, we're Southern Slopes. I mean, on whose basis have we been relisted?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe there is not a Southern Slopes now. It is Southern Tablelands. I'll pass to the Director of Corporate and Community to elaborate.
Through the Mayor, that's correct. It is the Southern Tablelands that we are part of. That's as classified by the state government, and we participate in Southern Tablelands tourism and various Southern Tablelands organisations. It's the area councils that we collaborate with.
No wonder we're not of a like mind, because we are of a totally different agricultural nature. And if I move to page 55, and I mean that quite earnestly, we are of a very different agricultural base with the Southern Tablelands, where broadacre agriculture barely exists. And I think it needs pointing out to whoever from the state government unilaterally amalgamates us and makes these decisions. On page 55, it notes that agriculture is our largest industry. On that note, could I be advised for the next meeting the list of roads, because I think this is a report to the community and agriculture is listed as our largest industry. Could we have a report on the number of roads that trucking businesses or companies have requests in for usage outside the standard permit, and how long those requests have been in council for? Because I'm aware of one industry trucking business that's had an account that had a request into council for over 150 days before it was looked at to take a higher mass limit vehicle down the road before harvest, and council didn't deign to even bother looking at it up until harvest. So I think we need a report back on.
Tending to digress a bit, councillor. So please.
I think I'm within the body of the report, which is reporting to the community.
Only just. So move on, please. Come on.
Well, okay. I'll move on, but I still request that report. Page 57 says Councillor Armstrong attended 8 of the 11 ordinary meetings. I believe he attended all of the meetings he was allowed to attend. Right, so I think that's a bit of a shortcoming of that. Page 67, it says Councillor Armstrong, received fees for the full $17,680. Is that correct, or was he only paid when he was alive?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it was for the calendar year 30th of June 2024. We had our colleague with us past that.
Well, they can't both be right. You can't have missed 4 meetings, 3 meetings.
Yeah, can we move on to your next one, please, councillor?
Okay. On page 81, we have access applications, GIP applications, number of applications by type of applicant and outcome. Could we please be advised of what the general access applications to personal information, did they relate to personal information of councillors? Can we be advised of the GIP applications?
Thank you, councillor Flannery.
Take that on notice.
Is there an answer to that?
Through Mr. Mayor, I'll take that on notice.
Thank you. Anything else, councillor Flannery? Your time's just about up to speak on the matter.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'd like a response back for the next meeting, please.
Thank you. Anyone else got any questions in regard to the report or the matter before I put it? Councillor Foreman. Councillor Foreman, the floor's yours.
I would just like to make a comment. I managed to read most of it. And I sort of encourage the community to actually read the report. I think there's a lot of really handy information in there. And And it's some of the things I looked at and went, I didn't realise that we were actually involved in that or doing that, being operational or whatever. So if the community does want a bit of a roundup of what we do, and I think the report was good. I mean, good information in there. I think I just like to encourage the community, if they get time, to have a good read of it. It's a good report. Good to know.
Thank you, Councillor Foreman, and I agree 100%. We hear a lot of community feedback saying they're not informed and they don't know what's going on. The information is there and it's not that hard to find, so I too encourage the community to take part. Councillor Blackwell, did you have comment, question?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a technical amendment, perhaps, is the best way to put this. I'm not comfortable as a point of principle lumping two separate things together in the same motion. I'm wondering if I could amend it so we have A, B, and C be separate from D, E, and F. They're separate votes. So they are two separate issues.
Through the Mayor, it is an Office of Local Government guideline that they are adopted together. You can change that if you'd like, but they do go through as the State of the Region report is appended to the annual report in that year.
Okay, thank you. I didn't
Thank
know.
you, thank you for that. And yeah, they'll moved and seconded together, and that's how they'll be. And thank you, Director, for that. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll put the recommendation. Oh,
sorry.
The Director wants to speak to the report.
Sorry.
Your game.
I didn't get a chance at the beginning. I just wanted to point out we have just found two things that need to be changed. In the annual report, it was two committees that Councillor Foreman was involved in were then incorrectly stated in the State of the Region report. So I'd like to be able to make that amendment tomorrow before we upload it. And we also, and I don't know if anyone picked up, in the State of the Region report, we have accidentally copied across the council meeting attendance just for 1 year. So we do need to put that for the whole period. So I have got an updated copy here if anyone wanted to check it, but I'd like to be able to update that tomorrow before we submit the document.
Council will take that as being updated before it's presented tomorrow. Thank you very much. Director, on that note, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 12.4, Draft Code of Conduct. The report, and is there in the report? Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Seconded. Councillor Gallo, thank you. There's no questions or in regard to anything?
Just a quick
Councillor,
question.
you're speaking for, against, or?
Question for the General Manager, please.
Councillor Stadmiller.
Just wondering if there's anything in the General Manager's opinion that strays away from any previous Code of Conduct, the most recent one.
I'll just pull you up there for a moment, Councillor. You will have to reword your question. There is no room in this room for opinions from staff.
Okay, I was hoping it might have been fact if he was aware of changes. But
Well,
I'm not aware.
ask the question in any other manner, but as for asking for an opinion.
Can the General Manager inform me if there's been any changes made without giving his opinion to the Code of Conduct from the previous Code of Conduct?
General Manager, I would advise you not to express an opinion, but a factual answer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware of any material changes.
Thank you. Any further questions in regard to this matter? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 12.5, Draft Code of Meeting Practice. Moved Councillor Flannery by the sound of that. Seconded Councillor Stadmiller. Anyone speak to you or speak? No. Any questions in regard to the matter? No? I'll put the matter. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Blackwell is against. The recommendation is passed. Item 12.6, Draft Councillor Expenses and Facilities Policy. Councillors, this was spoke about at the briefing, and the recommendation of staff is there for councillors. Do I have a mover and a seconder? It's Councillor Foreman, thank you, and Councillor Davis seconded. Would you like to speak to the recommendation or happy? Thank you. Anyone got any questions in regard to the matter? No? I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Blackwell's against.
Oh, no, sorry, that was meant to be in favour. Sorry.
when we do meetings and we do it by Zoom, it can get complicated, and I appreciate there's a time lag where you are, but I've said it before to councillors on Zoom. From sitting in this chair, it's very difficult to record the votes as it is, so please concentrate. So that was unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Having said that, you do acknowledge that you voted against the previous motion.
Yeah,
Thank
correct,
you.
yes.
Thank you. Okay, we move on to 12.7.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery.
With some questions.
Okay, seconded. Did I get a second? Councillor Davis, thank you. Councillor Flannery has a question.
A couple, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could it be confirmed that the increase to the charges as per general fund income is 5.1%? I'm just not 100% sure that that's the exact number. More particularly, we discussed at the workshop the increased plant purchases of 150,000 being 3 new waste vehicles. These vehicles are being financed from the domestic waste reserve, 132,000, and balance from the sale of scrap metal. And I asked a question at the council briefing, so I'm hoping the director will have an answer. This is the quarterly budget review for the first quarter of the financial year. I do not understand how, when we sit down and do a budget and we decide what we're going to spend money on and what we're not going to spend money on, and capital is the key thing that councillors get to determine, how by the end of the first quarter we can be told that we've purchased 3 new vehicles that weren't budgeted, because we've got to vary the budget.
Correct. I'll hand to the Director of Infrastructure to highlight the reason for the purchase of the 3 vehicles. I have put a high-level summary explanation there of the reason for the requirement.
I understand that you have done that, but capital expenditure has to be approved by council, and it's the first quarterly review of the financial year. I don't understand how we've spent this money and it wasn't budgeted for, and the reason given actually amplifies the issue, because it says previously the waste staff have been driving vehicles that were previously used by the roads directorate. So it's not an issue that wasn't on the radar. I'll wait for the answer.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct. The vehicles were required operationally, given that waste operational staff were driving vehicles that had been purchased for other operational areas, including roads and weeds, for example.
So what we have through you, Mr. Mayor, what we have, unless I'm incorrect, to the GM, is expenditure of money that council didn't approve, and now we're post haste approving it. It's very clearly the case.
Mr. General Manager, would you like to comment on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the fund is available. The waste fund was there for the purpose of replacement of replacement for vehicles of this nature. So I believe it is in with the confines of the budget and the fund for that purpose. And it was not from the plant fund. We bring all plant fund matters of significance to councillors. This was an operational decision to purchase those from the relevant internal restriction for that purpose. So I believe it was budgeted for.
So,
Thank you for that.
So isn't it capital? It's not operational money, it's capital.
Councillor Flannery, I think we'll have to take those question asked, question answered. Any other further questions?
I don't believe the question's been answered anyway. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any other questions in regard to the quarterly budget review? If not, I'll put the item. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Flannery noted as against the recommendation. Thank you, councillors. I may have had to declare a conflict of interest in that last item, councillor. I believe I'm driving one of the vehicles now. Item 12.8 is the cash investment in unrestricted cash report. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that item, please? Councillor Douglas, thank you. A seconder? Councillor Davis, thank you. Would you like to speak to the recommendation, mover, or happy for?
Happy to.
Thank you. Is there anyone with any questions or speaking against the recommendation? Councillor Flannery, over to you.
Look, it's just a question on the interest rate on the most, I'm not too sure it's the most recent, but the 8th of October, the CBA rollover seems particularly low given where, and I know what the answer is going to be, that you've got to spread it around, blah, blah, blah. But the St George Bank one, 21st of October, 4.3% for $5 million is a particularly low interest rate, I would have thought, given the RBA hasn't cut and rates have actually pushed back up. The director, please advise why we weren't able to get a better rate.
Councillor, obviously on the day that investments fall due, we shop around for the most appropriate rate. I mean, that's the only way I can answer that. I mean, some of these rates are coming off at the moment, but there's no. We've had a call from T Corp yesterday, and obviously we look for AAA rated investments as well. But calls are made through the various institutions. Some may take it up, and some may not. But we do look for the best rate we can obviously get at the time. Sometimes those things are rolled straight over with the same institution. So I'm just trying to get my report up. Right. So which one were you querying? On the
on the 21st of October, we rolled $5 million at four. Well, probably that's a good question. Did we roll it at 4.32%? Because 2 days before we had 4.7 with St George Bank, and a week before that we had 4.95 with Commonwealth, 4.71.
All I can say is that these are the rates that would be offered by these institutions at the time, and you know we've got to make those calls by 11 o'clock in the morning when they're ringing around, and we'll try and get the best rate we can with the best institution. I mean, that's the way it is. We try our best to get the best rates. The financial accountant's on the phone when these things come up for maturity. If she's not there, they're then referred to me as well, and I'd look at whether we put it for 3 or 6 months to try and get whatever rate, and the fact that we don't need the cash.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank
I believe I asked the same question once before, and the only thing I can work out of it, as I mentioned, that may have happened is it was just automatically rolled over. But that's done and dusted now, but I'm sure it won't happen again. Any other questions in regard to this item?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor.
Are we restricted to which banks we can invest in?
Yes, we are. Yeah, we so T Corp. In fact, there's just a meeting held a few days ago. T Corp will check out what investments we're putting, and if we were not using AAA or A-rated investments, we'd get questions. So we just don't do it. That's a government ruling. We have to be very careful about where we invest our funds.
Are we restricted to just using so can we put all our money with NAB or all our money with Commonwealth, or do we have to share it?
That's an issue as well.
Yep.
Yeah, we can't do that. So probably goes to some of Councillor Flannery's questions as well. When we're trying to invest on the day, we may not be able to push a certain amount with a particular institution. Yep.
Thank you, CFO, for that. If there are no further questions in regard to that, I'll put that item. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 12.9, outstanding rates and charges and sundry debtors report. Our recommendation is receive and note the report. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Stadmiller moved. Councillor Gallo seconded. Councillor Stadmiller.
Just looking at the overdue 5 years, is that pertaining to land? Because it's interesting to note that Bora and Harden, if that's the case, have 77 and 84 compared to 57 in Young, which might mean that Young's able to, or residents of Young are able to pay their rates off quicker.
So the base of your question, you're looking at what particular localities?
Just Bora, Harden and Young, the columns there, overdue 5 years, it says 77 Bora, 84 Harden, 57 Young.
Yep.
And if they're over 5 years and it's land, when would they be going up for sale?
I'll be proposing another sale of land one of the issues we'll have is somebody just makes a small payment and they're restricted to go again. We can't digress from the Act, but there is another. I didn't want to do it before Christmas. The staff actually only prepared now. We're probably doing about February again for another May auction. But I will say one issue we are struggling with at the moment too is people paying their general rates, not paying their water rates. I mean, there's all sorts of combinations of issues that we suffer.
That's easy. We turn the water off. Okay. Any further questions in regard to the item? If not, I'll put that matter. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 12.10. Here we go. Information system status, November 2024. Do I have a mover and a second to receive and note the report? Councillor Foreman, seconded Councillor Langford. Thank you. Any questions in regard to this report? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Nope. Sorry. I haven't done it yet.
I have lost my place a bit, so I have a bit of an ad hoc question. But
pay attention.
The fuel system for one, and a more recent advice we've received as councillors would seem that we are still not getting all the information we require through Tech One. So, which we'll deal with later on in the report. But how is fuel usage and the fuel system, the fuel management system we currently use, heading to Tech One, along with other materials?
So you want me to answer that now in relation to this report or
the
later report?
Yes, please.
So it's entered in manually. It is entered in manually. So that's an issue within that report that will be part of the report in terms of improved efficiency. So to be automated through cards, etc. At the moment, they're entered manually off sheets. So that means that some people might record it and come back and may not actually record it accurately and then re-record it. So it's entered that the fuel systems are entered manually into the system.
Thank you.
And another question, we've been advised at the last few council meetings that we're in the process of aligning our outstanding debtors for rates, water, sewer. Where are we up to with aligning that so that we can get one report or one source of information?
I don't recall that one. Are you suggesting you want one report not broken?
We've been advised that someone can have rates outstanding, water outstanding, and we're not getting a report which details on the one that is available to you, I guess, and is able to be provided, detailing what rates are outstanding, the number of.
No, we can provide that information. I'm just not quite sure the base of your question.
Sorry, Mr. CFO.
General Manager.
I believe, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe the comment that's been made before is that we monitor overdue rates, and someone may have overdue water, but they're from two different databases, and we deal with the rate separately and the water separately. I believe Councillor Flannery is asking, when does it align when we go, Mr. John Citizen, resident thing, rates and water on one database?
The general rates and the water rates are on the one database. That's in the property information system. The issue is the sundry debtors. So if somebody's got a lease, a licence or a compliance issue, that sits within the finance system.
So the question is it foreseeable when we will be able to align those databases? So anything due to council from any ratepayer providing services, rates and or water, it's in one spot. I believe that's what we've talked about before. When will we be able to align those databases?
I'll raise that issue. We had a meeting with Tech One just last week. I'll raise that issue with Tech One. The issue will be, what are the costs in doing that? Or, in fact, will we develop a...
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, the director himself raised this as an issue. How can the director be going back to raise that with Tech One advising us it's now a cost issue?
There's not an issue in relation to the recovery of the debt because it sits in for sundry debtors in the finance system versus general rates and water rates in the property system. That's not. There's no issue there in terms of we're not following up a debt, if that's the question. In terms of
We have
getting...
previously been advised by you that there is not one source of truth, for want of a better way of putting it, of debts owed by Joe Citizen or Mary Citizen on X property, that you have to go to separate databases to get them, and that one of the outcomes of Tech One, when it's all operational, is you will be able to hit 851 Bamboo Street, and it will outline all the rates and charges, or the ratepayer, the relevant ratepayer, and it will provide you with a source of information. Now, that's what you told us.
So I'll just correct what you just said. On general rates and water rates are in the one database. Okay, I'll repeat that. The general rates and water rates are in the one database.
Yeah, I heard it first time.
Within the and there's obviously different sub-ledgers, payroll, AP, AR, etc., which interface in the GL and the property system. The sundry debtors, yes, are maintained in finance, but they're accurate. It's accurate information. It's not inaccurate information.
No, I'm certainly inaccurate information.
Councillor Flannery, thank you. I'm going to take this as, again, question asked and answered. We don't seem to get any further progression on just to the heart of the matter. It can be taken up.
I didn't raise the issue in the first place.
I understand that, completely understand that. I think there's been some misunderstanding about the question and what was said in the past. So we might just, as I said, take it as question asked and answered. And
it's not answered. Question asked, not answered.
Okay, then. You got any other questions in regard to the report?
No, because I won't be able to be answered.
Thank you. Any other councillors got any questions in regard to this report?
Through you,
Councillor.
Mr. Mayor. With the integrator of technology one, that will stop the reproducing of rates that have been paid. So I believe I brought it up earlier. So if someone's paid their water rates, they won't receive overdue notices for rates that have previously been paid.
Correct. So there was an issue where the downloading of a receipt file was delayed by a day, and subsequently the rate notices were issued. So, which indicated, I think it was about half a dozen people who had actually had paid, but actually then received a reminder notice. Currently, the financial accountant is just getting that information out. I'm sending a letter off to those people. That is not a regular practice.
So I'll just make a comment on your last comment. You're working on a letter to be sent to those people. I was of the understanding that those letters have been sent. So they haven't been sent.
This is just this recent issue in relation to the water rate.
That's the one I'm talking about.
No, I don't believe those letters have they been sent. No, sorry, Mr.
Mr. Mayor, I was advised that they were going to be sent this week.
I'm waiting us receiving that information. I actually checked yesterday, and then I will make sure the letters go out.
Okay, thank you. Right. On that note, I'll put this item. All
Mr.
those in
Mayor,
favour. Councillor Stadmiller.
Very briefly, can I foreshadow a motion? This doesn't get up.
You can foreshadow a motion, Councillor. Of course you can.
Receive and note the report, and a further report come back to council regarding other local government information systems providers and their suitability to Hilltops Council.
Thank you for that. On that note, I'll put the recommendation that's in front of us. All those in favour? Against? Recommendation is carried. Thank you, councillors. We move on.
Mr. Mayor, it was my objection. No.
Yes, it most certainly was, councillor.
Thank you.
Item 12.11. 12.11. Hilltops Council Office Christmas closure. The report said council and the recommendation is that council endorse it.
So moved.
Moved Councillor Stadmiller, seconded Councillor Dodd. Thank you. Questions? No. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Righto, councillors, get your hands ready and your arms. Item 12.12, council committee structure and council representation. Receive and note the report, endorse the committee structure and appoint councillors to committees as nominated. So I'm going to go straight to the committees and we'll get our candidates there and then we'll move it all in one big go. So the first one I'll come to is the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. We have Councillor Mackie already on that committee. All good? I'll do this before I get a mover in a second, okay? So we move on to the next one. Hilltops Local Emergency Management Committee. Meet quarterly. It is the LMAC type thing. I guess the mayor should be there. So there you go. Local Traffic Committee. Councillor for the Local Traffic Committee, Councillor Stadmiller and Councillor Dodd. Someone's taking these down, of course. Yep, thank you. We move over to section 355 committees. Rye Park Wind Farm Community Enhancement Scheme, Councillor. An alternate.
Myself.
Councillor Blackwell, thank you. Anyone else want to be part of that? No.
Oh, excuse me, through you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Mayor, do we have one councillor for the Rye Park? And alternate, what does that actually mean?
Well, if the one can't make it, you could be the seconder. Yeah, you could be the
Okay.
deputy. What do we want to call it?
Okay.
Okay,
Well-
and Councillor Foreman will be the alternate. You we learn every day, Councillor.
Doesn't say how.
The Gaylong-
Doesn't say how often that happens.
Gaylong, sorry?
How often
Yes.
that happens.
One funding round and associate meetings.
Through the mayor, we haven't. This is the first round that we'll have coming up. But if we compared it to, say, the Bango Wind Farm, there was enhancement fund. There was about 3 committee meetings, 3 or 4. They usually.
I'll nominate.
This is there, we're just finishing off the Rye Park, so understanding that. Help
Okay.
up then. So that's all good. Thank you for that, Director. So we'll go to the Gaylong Mine. Councillor Flannery's nominated. Anyone else like to be the alternate? Councillor Gallo, thank you. Then I go to the Bengo Wind Farm. Same deal. Do we have anyone?
Myself again.
Sorry. Councillor Blackwell, is that you? It's hard. Yep.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
that's
Thank
me.
you. Anyone want to be the alternate on that? Councillor Foreman will also do that. So that's that one. So we've got advisory committees. Hilltops Wellbeing Action Group. Councillor Douglas. Alternate. Anyone like to be the alternate on that? Councillor Davis, thank you. Young Sports Advisory Committee, Councillor and alternate.
I do that one now
I'm
anyway.
happy.
But Jake you can do it. Do the alternate. You can come anyway. Okay.
Councillor Foreman and alternate is Jake. Councillor Flannery, were you interested in also being part of that? Or?
If you've got that covered, I'm happy.
Righto, thank you.
If they can't make it, give me a call.
Thank you. We've got the Burrawa Australia Day Committee, Councillor and alternate.
I'm on that one now.
Councillor Mackey and Councillor Flannery, is that you?
Don't want to fight over it, Tony.
No, I don't know if I was going to nominate Joe.
Good on you.
That sounds like Joe's volunteered. Thank you. The Burrawa Irish Wolf Fest Committee, same thing, Council. And
Yeah, I'm on that one now. So
Joe again. Any alternate?
I can be the alternate.
I imagine Councillor Blackwell would do that. We have the Harden Kite Festival. Councillor Flannery.
I'm happy to nominate.
Thank you. You nominated before you even spoke. An alternate is Councillor Gallo. Thank you. The Young National Cherry Festival Committee.
Well, I do that anyway.
We've got Councillor Langfield and Councillor Foreman, both happy to be there on that. We can have 2 on that.
Through the mayor, I'd just like to clarify that with the alternate, you can both attend the meeting.
that's right.
Any
Yeah,
councillor can attend.
Yeah,
It's just that
yeah.
where
Mary,
there's a
Councillor Dodd, sorry, also sometimes attends.
Yes.
It's whoever's all welcome.
Yep.
Sorry, just to you, Mr. Mayor, just to say all of these committee meetings, you're there as the councillor and the alternate. Councillors are welcome to all of the meetings in any case.
Yeah. And if you're not welcome, you'll be let know. So it's fine. Hilltops Biodiversity Weeds Advisory Committee. Councillor Flannery. I'm also happy to be part of that if I'm required. And Councillor Dodd, thank you. Yep, Councillor Dodd was there. That's right. When we turn over, we've got the Development Control Plan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have a separate report on the DCP, so we might want to wait to that so people have a full understanding of the.
Hang on. Councillors, please. So you've got a separate report?
There is a separate report on the development, the re-establish the 12-15-24 307 Hilltop
Yeah, we
Development
have.
Control.
So you don't want me to do all that now?
No, I think the.
Righto,
can
we'll
talk
miss
about
that one. We'll move on to 5, Councillor Subcommittees. Asset Management Steering Committee, and I'll be one of those.
Yeah, I'll be the other one.
Councillor Flannery, thank you. Anyone else interested? You're all welcome anyway. The Financial Assistance and Sponsorship Committee, I'll be part of that. Councillor Foreman. Okay, and any other councillors who feel at the time if they want to be involved? Councillor Davis, okay. You poor apprentice. The General Manager Performance Review Panel, and whether you like it or not, councillors, we're all in that one. So then we go to external committees. Now, Delaney to Model Rail Line.
Mr Mayor, I don't believe that's, can we get advice from GM? I don't believe that's met in recent.
No, it hasn't, and the General Manager can speak to it if he likes, but yeah.
Through you, Mr Mayor, no, I'm not aware of any meeting. I know that there is interest still at times, but I haven't had attendance at that.
What I'll say is that I think if they decide to convene again, I will be notified and I will let council know about it. But yeah, it's very inactive at the moment.
Yeah.
The Canberra Regional Joint Organisation, that's myself. The General Manager attend. The Country Mayors Association again is myself and the General Manager. Golden Fields, we've got Councillor Langford and Councillor Mackie representing us on that. The Police Advisory Command Team is the Mayor. Councillor Flannery's one of few. The Southern Tableland Arts in Corp. We've got a councillor. Councillor Dodd, thank you. Thank you. Southwest, we'll move on, councillor. Southwest Regional Waste Management Group is the General Manager. We get over to the Southwest Slopes Liaison Committees and Southwest Slopes Bushfire Management Committee, and again, that's myself and the General Manager, as I'm chair of those. New South Wales Public Libraries Association. Do we have a councillor? Councillor Dodd.
You, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Dodd, you're just a fraction slow, councillor. Now, the next page. The next page, advisory committees. I have a problem with this. I believe, going on what's been recorded here, and I'll be corrected, the Geelong Progress Association met in February 2024. But if you look at the rest of these committees, they're non-functional. So, councillors, I know we've got to go back pages to get to the actual
Through you,
recommendation.
Mr Mayor, the Wombat Progress and the Harden Australia Day both do meet.
Yeah. Through the Mayor, we've made a list here of committees that we have recorded as being, I guess, associated with or participating in the past. We thought we'd provide you with a full list and where we know that they're at. So perhaps we've put here where we've received minutes last, and that's the latest notification that we've had of a meeting. Some of them were never formed. We've put whatever notes we can in there, and I think it's up to council to decide if...
Well, I agree, and it says no nominations committee never formed, no nomination committee met in January 2021. I don't know if it's council business, I don't know. Councillor Dodd's got a question.
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Dodd's got a question?
I do have a question. Because these were Section 355s and some of that hasn't really been resolved, the Marengo Progress Association or Community Association or whoever they are meet every 2 months. And I don't know that Section 355 has been resolved. Can we have some...
So you, Mr Mayor, the Section 355 committees are, as stipulated at the page 454, they're the only 3 Section 355 committees because they are either wind farms or mines. The Section 355 committees, as we've discussed before, were abolished as far as council is concerned. However, these community groups still exist. Many of these committees, particularly the Progress Associations and Marengo, Jugiong, Wombat, Geelong, Rugby, to name but a few, I know they all still meet. However, they meet as progress associations. The committees themselves would like a representative of council, but the councillor, if nominated, is an observer rather than we act upon it per se. If you understand the nuance, as in, so if you were to attend, I know that you've attended some of those meetings. You're there as an observer,
Yes.
as a councillor. Anything that comes up to that, you can bring back to that. What I've experienced is those groups, if they want interaction with council, they approach me as general manager, as the Progress Association, and we deal with the request as we deal with any community group. So this is the reason these are here is the overhang from when the process was to have them as all Section 355 committees, as I've explained before.
And so
From an insurance point of view, that is not practical, and the insurers are not open to us being having Section 355 committees, because the onus then is on us to do a whole raft of things and have the expectation that the community group responds in the similar way.
Councillor Dodd, you have further questions?
So I do, just about that when they were Section 355s, they reported on the money. So that money just now stays with those individual associations.
So,
and we still deal with those associations, but some of them are not actually resolved into unincorporated associations, or?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we're working through, because there is, when I arrived here, there was some 30 plus. The list that I've seen were not comprehensive. We're working through to ensure that if they are on Crown land, we make sure that there's a plan of management. We make sure that we have a licence agreement for activities to undertake. So we are working through from the practical level, and that is an ongoing process. The report before you tonight is, do you as councillors want to nominate, and we advise the group, if you want something done, or the councillor has nominated themselves to be your, I suppose, patron would be one of a better word. But other than that, we are working through the mechanisms of licences, leases, arm's length, council dealing with an incorporated association to ensure the function and the ongoing commitment from the community is harnessed, and we can do it.
Okay, on that note,
Mr. Mayor, can I jump in? Can I move? I'll be quick, especially with you around. Can I move that we adopt all the items listed, the positions listed so far, that the committees listed on 459 through to 461, although 459, 460 come back to the December meeting. I believe minutes have come back from some of these committees recently than is listed, but we adopt what we've so far adopted. Can we move those off this discussion now? Because I believe if the Progress Associations would like a councillor and they meet frequently and a councillor's happy to go, I think that's meritorious. I also think we should meet twice yearly with all the Progress Associations in council, with the general manager, mayor and councillors if they wish to attend, for the smaller ones who may not have a representative. I'll move that we adopt the existing positions. I need advice on page 461.
Thank you. So 461, it's Centrock, which is the mayor and general manager. Floodplain management is mayor, our councillors. Lachlan Regional Transport. Is there a councillor who'd like to be involved with the Lachlan Regional? Councillor Douglas, thank you. And the young,
Mayor, sorry.
just one moment, and I'll come straight back to you, Councillor Blackwell. Young Showground Trust. Councillor to sit on the Young Showground Trust. Saved by the bell. Councillor Gallo, thank you. Okay, so that's that page taken off. So, Councillor Blackwell.
Yes, notwithstanding Councillor Flannery's motion, I do agree on the Progress Association. I'm just wondering if we can carve out the Aboriginal Advisory Committee. I would like to attempt to restart that as an advisory committee. And I'm happy to volunteer myself now to be a member of that from council.
Life wasn't meant to be easy, so now we've got an amendment to take these reports out of it. Now we've got another amendment that's to leave some of them in there. I think to deal with the matter in the manner it should be dealt with, and I appreciate your support for the committee you're talking about. Councillor Flannery's requested to bring those all back to the December meeting is probably the most appropriate manner that they can all be dealt with at the same time, rather than dividing things, and we're separating things that maybe we don't need to separate, and that we can all agree on in the December meeting when a bit more time and thought is given to how they present it to council. So that's what I would suggest there, and hope that's okay, Councillor Blackwell, with you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll go back, councillors, now to page 452, which is receive and note the report, endorse the committee structure and appoint councillors to committees as nominated. And dot point D now reads, Councillor Flannery.
To bring back pages, the committees listed on pages 459, 460 for representation or otherwise by councillors following
For consideration out of December meeting. I think would be enough. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
So on that note, I hadn't asked for a mover and a seconder up until that stage. So now we've got the full recommendation there with the dot point D added in it. Good thinking. So is someone happy to move the recommend Councillor Douglas and seconded by Councillor Mackie? Thank you. So with all that in consideration, all those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Appreciate it. And as mentioned by the General Manager, all those committees, all councillors are welcome until told otherwise. So if you'd like to turn up to any of those when they're advertised. 12.13, Burrawa Golong Rail Trail Oversight Committee. Councillors' reports there.
Through you, General Manager, would we, Mr Mayor, would we be able to amend it to have maybe 2 councillors attend? Just given the size of this project?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we're entirely in your hands. Councillors, is just the recommendation to put forward.
So Councillor Gallo would like to appoint 2 councillors?
Yes, that's correct.
Appoint 2 councillors to the Oversight Committee. That's the motion that will now belong to Councillor Gallo. The only change in that was dot point C. And that's seconded by Councillor Flannery. Thank you very much. Very good. So now...
Through the Mayor, we would need to update the terms of reference.
Pardon? Sorry?
We would need to update the terms of reference to allow for 2 councillors on the committee.
And we take that as given that you will update the terms of reference. Thank you. So now I'll take the nominations, and I'm pretty sure I know where the nomination's going to come from. Councillor Gallo is one, and I'd say...
No, I would actually like to nominate Councillor Flannery.
Well, I thought
that... And I'd like to jump in as well.
We've got Councillor Flannery and Councillor Blackwell. Any other nominations for that committee? I don't see a lot of people volunteering, so there's the 2 councillors.
I'm happy for someone else to, if people feel that I'm too close to them, happy for someone else to stand. Joe or someone.
We have no problem.
I'm happy to go on.
We have no problem in the room, councillor, with you representing council on this one with Councillor Blackwell. Thank you. So
okay.
we take it that the terms of reference will be updated to show that, Director. Thank you very much. On that note, I'll put the matter. All those in favour? Thank you. It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. You threw me out there, Councillor Gallo. You misread that altogether, yeah. Okay. Rust. 12.14. The Copperbella Wind Farm Voluntary Planning Agreement. The recommendation and the report there is council in front of you. To have a mover and a seconder. Moved, Councillor Langford. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Dodd. Thank you. Any questions? Anyone talk to it in regard to it? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Unanimous. No, sorry. Against?
I'm against it because I believe we're being shortchanged.
Yeah, your vote's been notified, councillor. Thank you. Councillor Flannery was against. Item 12.15. Hilltop Development Control Plan, re-establishment of council steering group and practitioner reference group. Now, this, General Manager, is just what you referred to before when we exempted that committee from it?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
So, take in mind, councillors, we didn't form anything to do with that committee on this matter. I'll now hand over to the General Manager or whoever, Director of Planning, whoever wants to speak to it.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I will pass to the Director of Planning.
So through you, Mr Mayor, you may have noticed on that last item that there was a special category for the steering group, and it's because unlike all the other items, this is actually a working committee using your guidance of a detailed planning program that will take a couple of years to complete. So it's one that we're wanting to do in collaboration. So in terms of a number of councillors, we want as many of you as you're willing to give your time, because I think your insights will be really helpful to us. But it's not something that you can just dip in and out of. You actually need to be steering us the entire time. Otherwise, we're going to go backwards and not get the progress that we need for the project. So it is, in terms of commitment, because we operated this for over a year now, is that it's about a meeting every 1 or 2 months, usually monthly, but sometimes it's bi-monthly depending on where the work's at. And so, ideally needs to be in person. We'll be going through a new DCP in some detail and working with you to get some sense check of that. The next phase after that is that then we take the ideas that are coming out to a practitioner reference group to get their lived experience with the plan and to test the controls to make sure that they're really going to hit the mark, so that DAs can be assessed as quickly and as efficiently as we can.
Thank you for that, Director. So, the recommendation, which I will first ask for councillors to nominate to be on that steering group. So we've got Councillor Douglas, Foreman, Davis, Langford, Dodd and Stadmiller. That's not a bad start. All right then, thank you. That's very good. So, having had those people commit to being on that committee, steering group, and endorsing the particular reference group, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder of that recommendation. Moved, Councillor Foreman, seconded, Councillor Davis. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 12.16, post exhibition for adoption, the housekeeping amendment that we talked about. So the report's there, councillors, and the recommendation is in front of you. Do I have a moved, Councillor Foreman, second, Councillor Gallo. Any comments, questions? No, I'll put that. All those in favour? In favour? Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Oh, it's unanimous. We go to 12.17. Development application stats for October 2024. They're there in front of you, councillors, and the recommendation. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Foreman, seconded. Councillor Davis, thank you. I'm well on your side. Okay, questions in regard to this report or speak for the mover? If not, any questions on the report? If there's none, thank you very much. I'll put it. All those in favour? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 12.18. DA 2024/0114 subdivision. It's a boundary adjustment at lot 2, 52 Elizabeth Street, Young. There's a report there, councillors, and the recommendation is we green consent. I have a mover and a seconder. Moved, Councillor Langford. Thank you. Councillor Davis seconded it. Anyone like to speak to it or questions in regard? No. I'll put that. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 12.19. And DA 2024/0079, General Industrial, 2 sheds at lot 1020597, 10 Corcoran Crescent, Burrawa.
So moved.
Moved, Councillor Stadmiller, seconded, Councillor Foreman. Any speak for questions? No, I'll put that. All those in favour? That's unanimous, councillors. Thank you. Now I'm lost. We change volumes. 12.20. DA 2024/0126. Dwelling house additions at lot 501. Wickham Lane, Young. And this might be one that Councillor Davis declared a non-pecuniary. Thank you. So do I have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved, Councillor Langford. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Davies. No comments in regard to that matter? For speak, Councillor Langford?
No, well, just comments. 101 pages in that development application. Is there any reason that it needed to be that large for an extension?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the reason why you get all the documentation is that you're making the responsibility to determine this DA, and that means you need to see all the documentation that goes with that. That's a statutory requirement. A shortcut for the reports is that we do our best to get the information you're making a decision on in the first few pages. So we give a summary first up about what the issue is. We then summarise what the development is, and then go straight to the assessment bit that is the reason why this report's in front of you and not what's been determined by council officers. So usually the first 3 or 4 pages is enough, and you don't really need to read the rest unless you're really interested.
Thank you for that. On that note, is there any other questions in regard to that matter? There's not. I'll put that. All those in favour? Thank you. Councillor Langford, your microphone's still on. It just creates an echo if we have too many mics on. Thank you. Item 1221. I missed that. 1221. Moved, Councillor. Could you just hold on a moment, please.
It's been dealt with.
Okay. We're on to 1222. Now the matter had been dealt with, brought forward due to a speaker in public forum. For our listeners who are taking note of that, DA 2024/0121, swimming pool at 100 Swamp Road, Maringo. So it's been moved, Councillor Douglas, seconded Councillor
With a
Stadmiller.
question, please, Mr. Mayor.
Question, Councillor Stadmiller.
It's just not in lieu of a 20 metre, I suppose, setback. That seems like a large setback, and we're allowing 1 metre. So should 20 metres be changed going forwards?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, generally speaking, 20 metre setback in a rural zone is appropriate. The reason why we're recommending this for approval is that their adjacent property is a travelling stock route, and that means that there's actually a bigger setback in practice before the next property. We do have a condition that the boundary is surveyed, so just to minimise the risk that they build a swimming pool on the travelling stock route, which would be unfortunate.
That'd be very clever given what's happened to us before.
Don't laugh too much. You're exactly right, Councillor. We've had experience.
It's a sheep.
On
Sheep might be able to swim.
On that note, I'll put the item. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 1223. Another DA 2024/0154, multi-dwelling house, 189 Nazareth Street, Young.
So moved.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I've just realised that I have a conflict of interest, non-pecuniary, stay in the room and vote on this item that I did not declare earlier. Sorry.
It's not like you, Councillor Dodd. I know. You will only pick up the little things. Thank you for that. So that's been declared. So Councillor Stadmiller, did you move that? Thank you. And the seconder was? Councillor Douglas. Thank you. If there's any comments or to speak to the matter or questions, if not, I'm going to put that. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. 1224 on whatever page. There we are. Item 1224, proposed curb and gutter renewal projects. The councillors, the report's there and the recommendation is to receive a note and adopt the proposed projects in table 1. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved, Councillor Foreman, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Davies. Corner's working well. Question, Councillor Flannery.
Look, without knowing, but I would have thought there's more highly trafficked footpaths in Hardin and Murrumborough than Bathurst Street that are in need of repair, but I can't point to any. It just strikes me as one of the least trafficked footpaths that I would be aware of.
Thank
Haven't
you.
considered.
Director, like to comment on that at all?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is curb and gutter renewal, not footpaths. So the sections were identified on based on the condition of the curb and gutter in the area.
Thank you. Any other
Okay,
questions?
are there any other areas in Hardin that were considered, or Hardin and Maryborough, that were considered for curb and gutter?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, these recommendations are from an assessment based on a variety of sources, including operational staff experience in the area and specific targeted surveys. So I can't absolutely guarantee that there aren't worse sections of curb and gutter. However, these sections were selected based on their condition.
Thank you for that. Councillor Douglas, you have a question?
I do, through you, Mr. Mayor. Is this work going to be completed by council staff or through a contractor?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I might have to take that on notice. I believe, yes, I'll have to come back to council on that.
Thank you. Any other questions in regard to this report?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The Bathurst Street one, maybe it is adjacent to the memorial there, so that's probably, it's a big parking issue, so that may be the reason.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councillor Foreman. Councillor Foreman.
Question?
Yep.
Of the director. In relation to HGH and the car yard there, I do note that the tree area has been replaced and gutted, and the roots have been, which an amazing job has been done there. So is this extra work on the driveway area?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the report should have noted that work was already complete.
Yeah.
This is for the work that has been completed.
Okay, so there's a bit more work to go in that area.
No, I believe
or you feel it's been completed,
yeah,
because it does look complete. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Strategic placement of a driveway by an organisation. Councillor Flannery, was it? Did you have a comment? Did I cut you off? No?
No, if the report's going to council on the question asked by Councillor Douglas, we also have a advice on other areas of curb and gutter in Hardin or Murrumbera that are on the priority list.
Thank you. On that note, Councillor Langford, did you have a question? Sorry.
For new councillors, through you to the director, do you have a price per metre? How's it priced for the curb and guttering?
Yes, so it is based on a price per metre.
Price per metre. And that $100,000 there, was there work completed this second part of the budget, or is there work before that, or is this it for this year?
That's it for this year, is my understanding.
That's it for this year. Yeah. All right. So we don't know. So I'm just thinking when we go to set budgets, to have an idea of how much a metre it is. When we're setting a budget of $100,000 doesn't seem a lot of money when you look at all the footpaths that need doing.
Councillor, yeah, I can comment on that a bit. This $100,000 was a separate allocation to do these proposed works. I introduced to the budget 2 years ago of $100,000 to commence doing new curb and guttering where it's been missed before as a yearly thing, and that was completed again in this year's budget. So there now sits $200,000 in our budget for new curb and guttering. It was never put away to repair old curb and guttering. It was put aside by a vote of council for new curb and guttering. This is to repair work that needed being repaired and was separate funding. So thank you. On that note, any other questions? Happy to put that matter. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Sorry, I missed. Against? Councillor Douglas noted as against. Thank you. I'll have to do a full vision right round. 1225 is proposed shade sale locations. It's moved by Councillor Foreman, seconded by Councillor Stadmiller.
Read the question, please.
Question, Councillor Stadmiller.
Just the way that the, I suppose, proposed park and playground upgrades have been selected, visitor usage, I'm not sure how that would be tracked, especially for Coddington Park. Exposure to sun, it's completely exposed. Other assets offered. I suppose my gripe would be we didn't get the assets in regards to the play equipment that we wanted. So if we were going to get shade sales allocated on the assets offered, the assets in Coddington Park are fairly poor in regards to the play equipment, something that myself and maybe Councillor Flannery will continue to want to investigate. But can I just get some advice from the Director as to what that does exactly mean? Other assets, is it toilets, is it seating, play equipment? What does it fully sort of cover?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, those other assets offered that were considered are, a broad range of assets, including, as you noted, play equipment, toilets, existing covered areas. It's quite broad. And to the point about visitor usage, yes, there is no quantitative tracking of who uses each of the parks. That's a qualitative assessment by staff.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Only comment I'd make in regard to that is, while we're talking about shade sales, as on request in a meeting at the Harden Pool, there needs to be, and I spoke to the Director about it, some replacement of some shade scale that was torn down in a storm of half, which covers one of the small pools. So that's a matter that needs to be looked at, but I have spoke to the Director about it. So on that note, Councillor Foreman.
Sorry, I just would like to make a comment on this. This is something that has been a vision of council for a while, to start on these shade sales over playgrounds, and I'd like to see this the start of what we do as council, as Mayor Ingram has just said, going forward, to look at all shade in our hilltops. But this is a very good place to start. And I know the community's been asking for this for ages, so it's good that we're finally getting some put on the books.
Thank you, Councillor.
Further question, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Stadmiller.
I just note that I think at Jugiong there's 2 shade sales that might be going into the pool area. Could the Director maybe work in with that provider and get a bit of, I suppose, cost analysis to discount these further shade sales?
Probably operational, so we'll probably stay out of that, but we'll leave it to the relevant Director.
Thank you.
Thank you. On that note, I'll put that matter. All those in favour? Please just have it noted that Councillor Dodd was just out of the room when that vote was taken. Thank you. Item 12.26, upcoming major projects funding request. Councillors, the report's there and the recommendation is there. Do I have a mover and a seconder?
Move the question.
Move, Councillor Flannery. Happy to second, Councillor Foreman. Thank you. Councillor Flannery, question.
The question specifically relates to the 200,000 allocated in this year's budget for the upgrade of the toilet facilities at Roberts Park, which is adjacent to Coddington Park. And when we started working on Coddington Park, I tried to have the 2 precincts put together as one. But I don't agree with 200,000 being unilaterally provided to staff for a concept design for us to put in an application for a grant or whatever. I have just seen too many of these quantums of money given to contractors for $30,000 to $50,000 to develop concept designs. So I'm happy for a concept design to be used at 200,000 to be thrown down the toilet, so to speak, without any accountability is a concern. So could the Director advise us, or the General Manager, or whoever will be responsible for the acquittal of funds? And I do think it goes to some of the others as well, albeit they are much more significant projects, but you couldn't compare the young CBD revitalisation, the Burra Reservoir duplication, although you probably could, Garibaldi Gully, to a toilet and chambering facilities to spend 200,000 on consultant. But there just seems to be a total misalignment of the project scope with the amount of money we're looking to spend on consultants.
Great question, Councillor. I'll hand to the Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the $200,000 for Roberts Park facilities is an existing allocation. that does not necessarily mean that we'll spend $200,000 on the design work.
I guess
I understand that. That wasn't the question.
I think what's been asked, and I had several phone calls from councillors in regard to this matter, is how are these people that we're getting to investigate and design these projects justifying an enormous amount of money? As Councillor Flannery just alluded to, $200,000, and you've answered that and said, you know, it may not all be spent. But when you turn over the page, all right, it's a bit scary, and you look at 200,000 to design and talk about a reservoir and 150,000 for CBD river. It's an enormous amount of money. So how do we justify setting that amount of money or paying that amount of money to consultants to draw us up something that then costs a lot more money? I have been involved with local government for 12 years. I have seen this done for other communities and Main Street designs and all this fancy stuff, and I can refer to a project in Harden that took years to finish off and it kept getting changed, and all this wonderful stuff that we paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to be put in front of us only to realise we couldn't afford it. So my question is there, and I think it follows on from Councillor Flannery's, is about, are we getting a bang for our buck when we're talking about this amount of money just for investigations and designs? I know it's a big question and a big scope, but have you got anything there that you can inform councillors about, that how we justify these budgets for this type of money?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, in that respect, it is very much dependent on the type of project. So typically an industry standard for, say, a water or sewer project, such as a reservoir or a treatment plant, the survey, investigation and design phase of that project typically costs 10 or 15% of the total cost of the project. So if you're talking about, say, a $2 million reservoir, for example, that's a significant amount of money. That's around $300,000 for that design phase, and that is an accepted percentage within the industry. So in terms of getting value for money for that stage, unfortunately, that's what it costs.
I think it goes back.
Mr. Mayor, can I move that we defer this to come back to a workshop and then the December meeting? Because I think if we're looking at the Burra to the Harden, coming out of Burra pipeline, and then $2 million on reservoirs, the urgency of it all, I think young CBD revitalisation is important. I think we just need to understand more about what these projects entail, especially with new council, before we go and allocate $1 million of funding for consultants.
Okay, so Councillor Flannery's called for deferral of this matter to receive basically more information around these numbers.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, just a question. Do we have to spend all the money on every single project, or these are just estimate costs though, aren't they?
Yes, so they are just allowances to commence the process.
Yeah.
We're not necessarily going to spend all of them. For some projects, it will cost us more than that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's simply an allowance for us to start the process.
And we did two of the reservoirs, and
Mr. Mayor, do we have a second for my deferral?
I'll just make a comment. I was going to make a comment in regard to, I think what the feel that I get in myself is that I'd like to have a little bit more information. I'm not in one moment suggesting none of these projects need to be done. Of course they do, and I support them all. I'd just like to have a bit more information and knowledge for my own sake in regarding to the large amount of monies we're talking about. I know local government gets treated a certain way, different than private industry, but they are big numbers, and I wouldn't have a problem with a bit more of an explanation and a briefing around these matters. The projects themselves are fine. I've got no problem with carrying them out. It's just the amount of money we spend preparing to do them, and on that note, I'd be happy to second the motion for deferral and put that motion to council now so we know where we're at to. So the motion is to defer this item to the December council meeting. All those in favour?
Mr. Mayor, just a point of order on procedure. Does Council Foreman have to accept that we're going with the new or not? Is that right?
Councillor Flannery moved a motion of deferral. I seconded it, and we just voted on it.
We've just got Councillor Flannery and Foreman up there for the original motion. That's also the deferral becomes instantly the new motion. Is that right?
That's correct, councillor. That is correct. Now, I'm not privy to what's on the screen, so I don't know what's on the screen till I look over here. And the motion is to defer the matter to the December council meeting by Councillor Flannery, seconded by Councillor Ingram. All those in favour? Against? That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. It's a tough one for the director teams. I understand that. Just, I think a bit more knowledge passed on to new and experienced councillors about that process will help councillors in the long run. Item 12.27, Young Sewer Proposed Funding Reallocation. The report there, councillor, and the recommendation is to receive and note the report. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Flannery moved. Councillor Davis seconded it. Questions in regard to that item? No, I'll put that. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous, councillors. Item 12.28 is the Capital Works project update, and the recommendation is to receive and note that report. Councillors, you want to move that way? Councillor Davis, thank you. And Councillor Douglas. It was moved by Councillor Douglas and seconded by Councillor Davis. Question, Councillor Flannery.
Yep, sorry, unfortunately I had my mic on mute, and personally, I thought the previous report was pretty ordinary information.
It's been dealt with, councillor. It's been dealt with.
So, could we be advised of the barbecue that was held for the picture on page 1151, please? The $860,000 barbecue.
The question from Councillor Flannery is 1151. I'm looking at a Chums Lane culvert.
Yes, and we were advised in a previous report that there was one of the directors attended a barbecue for the pouring of the slab, and I'm pretty sure that's the pouring of the top deck of the Chums Lane. And as you pointed out by you, I'll have to find somewhere else to ask the question. So on page 1151, they're pouring the top deck of the Chums Lane culvert. I'm just wondering why to have a barbecue that I thought was A, too expensive in the first place, and B, is just business as usual.
I'll hand over. Who would like to take that question? Director or General Manager? I know nothing about barbecue, so I can't help.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, that barbecue was organised by the contractor by their own decision.
I'll bet it was when they got paid that.
All right, okay. Asked and answered. Thank you. Any other questions in regard to the
through you, General Manager? Have we got a date for the opening of Sheedy's Bridge? Because the postal lady's getting a bit grumpy going around.
Good question. Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the bridge is expected to be complete and opened in December.
Thank you. And December's not very far away, Councillor. Yeah, that's good news.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor
I know the reports for the bridges and culverts, it says that it improves connectivity to the surrounding areas. Could I be advised of what improved connectivity we get from the bridges that existed previously, please?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, it depends very much on the bridge. However, they typically are replacing timber or partially timber structures, so they will provide greater width for vehicles to pass one another, as well as a greater load limit for carrying heavier vehicles.
Thank you for that.
So the question is, which of these bridges will have increased load limits on them? Because it's listed in the report that will be the case.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll have to take the specific question of load limits for specific bridges on notice.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Perhaps if it's not the case, we shouldn't write it.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Stadmiller?
Just the Hardenabora pipeline, I asked the director when we might get something more concrete in regards to the actual design and trajectory of where the pipeline would be going in regards to road reserves, farmland, etc. And he advised me, I think, 3 weeks. That was, I suppose, a month ago. So putting you on the spot, do you have a more detailed design on yet or not?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, not finalised as yet. The concept design and the environmental assessment work is still being reviewed. It was delayed by investigations into further biodiversity assessments.
Okay.
On that note, through you, Mr. Mayor, we were advised when this came up for the last council meeting that to do a BDR would be time prohibitive, and it was listed that there were other alternatives, and so council adopted the alternative, which was the species impact statement, and we've been advised in this report that there is not the funding nor the time to do the species impact statement, which I find disappointing because A, it doesn't detail any costings on what it might likely be, and 2, why put in your previous report that it was an option when clearly it wasn't? If we're going to write this stuff, just like the bridge load limits, it's either a fact or it's not a fact, and if it's not a fact, don't write it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, a species impact statement is legally an alternative to a biodiversity assessment report for a public authority such as a council. However, at the stage of writing...
Councillor, you asked the question, the director's trying to answer it.
I thought he finished himself.
However, at the stage of providing the previous report, we did not have enough information to say whether or not council could complete one.
Thank you for that. On that note, councillors, I'll put that report that says we receive and note the report. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Flannery noted as against. Thank you, councillors. Recommendation is adopted. Takes me to 12.29, the Capital Works report. I'm after moving a second to councillors. Councillor Dodd moved, thank you. Councillor Davis seconded it. Would they like to speak to it, or do we have any questions in regard to item 12.29? Councillor Flannery.
Yes, the Friends Park. So, as part of the VPA allocations, money was allocated to the upgrade of Limestone Park. That had to subsequently be withdrawn because of a land claim park in Gaylon, which was lodged in 2016, but regrettably, despite, I would say, $100,000 in money spent on detailed consultants' reports, if we want to go through it all again, it was withdrawn because they were only informed in, I think it was June this year, perhaps July. So some 8 years later, and $100,000 later, their alternative was to allocate VPA money, which they bear the burden of trucks going through town every day, was to allocate the money to Friends Park. Now, Friends Park was donated by the Friend family, the former owners of Bobruk Station. And on Friends Park are tennis courts, which are out of service, and the community have sought to use VPA funds to have them upgraded. They've been advised that part of the park, part of the tennis courts, has Crown land, and that Crown land is also subject to an Aboriginal land claim. I recommended to the Gaylon Progress Association, following their despair of having years trucks go through town, virtually no money spent as compensation, that they perhaps seek council approval to have the area survey to determine where the Crown land sits within the tennis courts and where Friends Park, or yes, Friends Park exactly sits, so that they can get on and build their damn tennis courts. So my question is, has council done anything about determining where the Crown land sits relative to the tennis courts? Have they considered doing a survey? And given I suspect there's no money available, could VPA funds be used to do a survey so the community can move on?
Thank you, councillor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, council has been working through some land issues associated with that project, hence why it is reported as being on hold. Part of that work is likely to require surveying. However, surveying has not yet been undertaken. We've been working with Crown Lands to resolve that particular issue. Yes, my understanding is that VPA funding could go towards surveying.
Thank you for that.
So when can what is involved in getting a survey done?
So we'll need to request a registered survey to provide an identification survey of the relevant lots.
Thank you.
Could I move an amendment to the motion, please? That B, council post haste have a survey carried out of Friends Park to determine the boundary of the Crown land and the privately gifted park, with the view of enabling the tennis court work to commence. And part 2 to that VPA money be utilised for the survey work and any necessary ancillary work, administrative work, and I believe...
Just slow up a bit, councillor, please, so we can get this down as we go, please. Here we go. Okay, councillor.
The part 2 would be that available VPA funds be utilised
For any administrative work.
for the survey and administrative work in the absence of available council funding. So, and for a commentary, I believe that would fit within the scope of the VPA allocation. I don't believe it needs to go back to the VPA committee. So to speak to that, I don't believe it needs to go back to the VPA committee. Given their desire to have the courts upgraded, I believe it fits within the scope of the project.
Thank you for that, councillor. We'll just make sure we get the wording right, and then so we've got that up there correctly now. Yep, so I'll ask the mover of the original recommendation, which was councillor Dodd, do you accept the amendment?
I'd like to ask a question about whether we can vote that VPA money.
Through Mr. Mayor, my understanding is it will. We'll go forward on that basis and resolve to do it. If there's an issue with that, I'll bring it back to council. But I believe we can.
Happy to accept that.
Thank you, that's been accepted. That is now the motion that's in front of you, councillors. Everyone had a chance to read the motion now as it stands?
I do have a question.
Your question, councillor Dodd?
Through you, General Manager, the financial year roads fundings, which is availability of resources for some of those have been put off. What resources? So a lot of the gravel resheeting things have been postponed due to availability of resources. Is that people, materials? Page 1175, 1176.
Sorry. Just. How have I got them there?
Page 1175, Kenyu Road, Project rescheduled from October 24 to February 25 due to availability of resources. Bennett Springs Road and Harry's Creek Road. We've deferred it to early next year.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. General Manager. So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the resource availability referred to there would be a combination of staff and plant. If that's not the case, I'll come back to council.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Councillor, for the question. It warms my heart that someone else is taking notice of the gravel resheeting programs. Thank you.
Question,
Question,
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Flannery.
There's a gravel resheeting West Lane, 500 metres. It's gone over budget, not substantially, but by $1,457. Taylor's Flat Road over budget by $7,000, 104%. Taylor's Flat Road repairs listed second time, 95,000 expended versus 52,000. Could the director advise where that alternative funding is coming from, or what other projects have been cut to fund those works? I have some other questions too.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the gravel resheeting programs are managed to council's adopted budget for a particular area, being Hardenborough or Young. However, operationally, these budgets for each road are nominated by staff in order to meet that budget. So some roads will be slightly overspent according to this budget for the road, but the real figure that we're working for is the overall budget for that program.
So there are other roads have been deleted as a result of the required work. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. Often it's about balancing the overspend and the underspends for that particular area. So you'll also see that other roads have been underspent in those areas, and overall we get pretty close to the budget.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The other couple of other questions, page 1169, in relation to a number of roads. We have total original budget in the second column following funding source, then we've got the current budget following the QDR, then the expenditure as at the 31st of October, and then the budget expended, and the overall project completed. So I'm having trouble aligning 75% is completed.
Councillor, through you, Mr. Mayor, these are multiple year projects, so the total original budget is for the whole budget, and the current budget is for the year, and the expenditure relates to the current year, and the budget expended for the current year, and then the overall project relates to the original budget. So I'll call it the three columns. The centre three columns relate to the current year and the budget for the current year, and the outlying total original budget and overall project is related to the whole of the project. Hopefully that helps, Councillor.
Perhaps the budget, the 2024-25 budget percentage expended, or might be more helpful.
Through you,
perhaps we
Mr.
could
Mayor.
add to the headings, overall budget, and then we could have the financial year percentage.
Look, I'm duly noted. I'm just looking at Estonia Road. The budget was 108,000 for the current year, and it was 67,000, which is about the 63% budget expended, and it's nearing its completion. Total costs outstanding for the 95. We may use that overall project to match the total budget. So you've got the total original budget and overall percentage, and then have the current year. Just move the column so it's clearer.
Thank you for that. Okay, how are we going now with any other councillors? Any questions in regard to this item? We've got the motion with the amendment being accepted. Everyone can read. I'll put that. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Thank you for your input. And thank you to the mover. Item 12.30 is the works report. The report is there, councillors, and the recommendation is that we receive and note the information provided on works completed and works planned. Can I have a mover, please?
Move. Questions?
Moved, Councillor Flannery. Seconded, Councillor Davis. Councillor Flannery, questions?
Yes, my questions relate to Hardin and Murrumburra. I attended the ceremony of both the Hardin and the Murrumburra Remembrance Day ceremonies, and I found myself standing there on both occasions looking at dead bushes that hadn't been watered, and I thought how embarrassing. The general streetscape, I've had to send photos and texts to the General Manager a number of occasions over the last month, starting with the kite festival, the picnic races, of the weeds and suckers going through the garden bed. I drive into Young and I look at what an excellent work the staff are doing. The garden beds look outstanding. It's an absolute picture. I was in Wooroora the other day. Garden beds are looking splendid. The roses, red roses are blooming. Wonderful work. I just cannot understand what's going on in Hardin. We used to be the pin-up of Hilltops, and it, in my opinion, is lacking care, it's lacking observation, it's lacking attention to detail. You just cannot have suckers that are 18 inches high above the garden bed and people are not noticing them. I'm constantly having these issues pointed out to me by residents of Hardin. I haven't been to Hardin for a couple of days, but the Christmas decorations in Hardin in Young are looking wonderful. I'm not aware of any decorations going up in Hardin. Flags didn't go up for a number of the local ceremonies. I was told last time I asked about flags that they have to be repaired. Can we be advised of what is happening to the gardens in Hardin, number one? Number two, I've asked previously, could the pro forma lists not be presented to the council minutes? Could we actually have the specific work that is occurring? We get pro forma lists of street and footpath mowing where and when needed, routine maintenance and mowing of parks and reserves. The only way we're going to drill down and know what is happening is if we present factual reports. Newson Park mowed weekly, Roberts Park mowed, sprinklers checked, suckers plants replanted, roundabout in Young. We have some reports that are factual and accurate, please. And could we be advised of the program for maintenance of garden beds in Hardin?
Thank you, Councillor.
Even Murrumburra,
Thank you.
even Murrumburra, I believe that on the western exit, plants have been sprayed out with Roundup or killed. Obviously, vandalised, in other words.
Thank you, Councillor. Like to respond, someone? Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can come back to council with a program. I'm not able to provide that on the spot, so I'll have to come back to you. We have had some staffing issues in Hardin. We've been working to the resources that we have available, and some of the bushes some of the plants in the street plantings do have disease issues, which we're working through. However, if council wishes for us to provide a program for that maintenance, we can do so to a future meeting.
Thank you for that.
Yes, yes, please. My staffing issues apart, there are literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of plants in those streets. Millions were spent. They need to be treated as an asset.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other? Councillor Langford? I'll go first. Councillor Langford.
Good to see the Kumbunji weed being taken out of the weir in the creek. But tomorrow's Thursday, Cherry Festival's on the weekend. Will those piles of Kumbunji weed be cleaned up by the weekend?
Thank you, Councillor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I will have to confirm the time frame for that project to be finished.
Thank you. As Councillor Langford just pointed out, that the good work has been started. We just hope the attention to detail can be followed up. But thank you. Councillor Stadmiller.
Just a question for the director through you, Mr. Mayor. Is council currently undertaking any mowing in the Aubrey Street area in front of properties that it used to do? And does Harden actually have a supervisor that is designated to be responsible for the way Harden Maryborough is currently looking at the moment that can be kept accountable, or are they based in another town?
Thank you, Councillor.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, there are dedicated staff for open spaces in Harden to be kept accountable. There is a dedicated team, so by nature there is a team leader. However, for the specific mowing question, I'll have to come back to council.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would definitely agree with Councillor Flannery. It was pretty embarrassing at Bill the Bastard, where it was knee-high weeds. It was pretty poor, given that it was actually a.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the Bill the Bastard area is actually under the purview of HRDC, not council. It's private land. Bill and the Star is on private land.
Yeah, it was also on the opposite side of the road.
The observation platform was also established by HRDC and it's private land.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think the point's been noted that the appearance of the two Harden and Maryborough have been questioned, and no doubt staff will take that on and follow that matter up. Councillor Douglas.
Just a question, Director. Do we have planned works to clean the weir, the rubbish in the drains? I've also noticed the murals underneath the bridge near the skate park have all been vandalised.
Sorry, through you, Mr. General Manager, could the councillor please confirm which town we're speaking about?
Young, sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, so those areas would be within our normal maintenance programs. However, the specific timing of which I'd have to come back to council.
Thank you for that. And I know that those concerns have been raised by a number of fellow councillors as well. And while we fully appreciate the work that's being done and we can see little improvements, let's just say councillors will be keeping a close eye on everyone's performance. So thank you very much for your answers, Director. Do we have any other questions in regard to this item? If not, I'll put the matter. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Takes me to item 1231. Correspondence for information. It's there, council hosts the recommendation. I move and a seconder, please. Councillor Langford. Moved, seconded, Councillor Foreman. All those in favour? Thank you, unanimous, accepted. Item 1232, the annual action summary report. Sorry, councillors. It's there in front of you, and the recommendation is we note the status of the action plan. Again, mover and seconder.
So moved with some question.
Move, Councillor Flannery. Seconded, Councillor Davis. Questions, Councillor Flannery?
Yes, the Red Hill, first item on the list, Red Hill Reserve. I think that's been going for, I was going to say 3 years, and I think it is 3 years. Do we have any progress on it? Surely we can get that sorted. To be advised for the waste management services, in progress is the encroachment reserve, Juvenile Cemetery. In progress is Spoiler Lawn Cemetery Reservation. In progress is the planning proposal voluntary EPA. When are we going to, well, it's a state government issue, I appreciate that, but there's a number of these items that are constantly in progress or to be advised. When we get a report to the next meeting that provides a bit more detail than to be advised.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we will expand upon our status and action. Thank you. And completion times.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other questions in regard to that report, councillors? Councillor Foreman.
Could I just comment on a couple of these things in here to also say, consultation to commence in late 2024? and we're quite late in 2024. We have the Bridbury water supply, and scrolling back up to where I just was, there was another one too, and I was something on the waste. The tender's closed.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly with the waste, we have briefed on our intended plan. We're working on getting that plan together, and we will present that, which will be right across the Hilltops. With February water supply, look, we're just working through that. It is best intentions for that, but as part of the update that we'll provide based upon Councillor Flannery's questions, will be more specific within the consultation times. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other questions in regard to that report? If not, I'll put that report. All those in favour? Against? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Ooh, I missed a page. That's it? Yep. Okay, so the next section of our council is questions with notice. There was a question with notice from Councillor Blackwell. The question was asked, the question has been answered, and the recommendation is we receive and note the question and responses. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Moved.
Moved, Councillor Langford. Seconded. Who was? Councillor Foreman.
Myself.
Nope. Oh, I've got Councillor Langford and Councillor Foreman. It's moved and seconded. All those in favour? Against? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Takes me on to notice of motion. And the first one is Burrawa Showground land usage. Councillor Stadmiller put a motion there. Councillor Stadmiller, you want to talk to your motion?
Very briefly, Mr. Mayor, I've just been liaising with a couple of members of the Bora community who have a good track record on delivering on things that they've been involved with, and they've made it clear that they believe there's land available that's currently in the Bora Showground that if a small amount of work was completed, it would be able to be brought up to a standard where a number of sports could be played on. So this is simply asking for a report to be brought back to council after a meeting we had with those people.
Thank you, councillor. On that point, I'd ask, would you like to move your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Could I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Davis was first, I think. So, okay, councillors, there's the motions there in front of you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. The next notice of motion is the review existing off-leash dog parks, put forward by Councillor Foreman. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Foreman?
Yes, thank you. Just briefly, as you can see by the motion that I'm moving and the background that I've put there, a lot of the community has often asked for some user-friendly dog parks, particularly small dog owners. I sort of checked out the Hilltops Council website, and we do have the fenced and off-leash area at the Young Showground. For some reason, people feel like it's uninviting, and I think small dog owners, once again, don't like to mix with the larger size dogs. Young also provides an off-leash, unfenced area at Jack Howard's Park. There is some signage down there. I don't think that's a bad location, but that's the two here in Young. Burrawa provides the off-leash, unfenced area on the northern side of the Burrawa River there. I don't know that that's the most suitable site for the residents of Burrawa or visitors, and it's also been raised on occasion with the Burrawa Business Chamber has, I believe, written to council to identify a more suitable site. And Harden, it just sort of states that they have no specific sites. The off-leash sites are generally all areas outside of towns with the 60-kilometre speed signs. So I'm sort of thinking this is just to sort of maybe identify the future needs, and it would be an ongoing plan that maybe leads to a dogs in open spaces type plan but this would be the start point. And I think, look, dog attacks are on the rise. I think we need to just identify that the community does.
Point of order. We're going to put the motion, then we can debate it.
The mover of the motion, which we haven't asked to move yet, is just speaking to a motion. I'm sure it's nearly coming to completion, so we'll give the mover
Yes, happy
the,
to.
the motion
happy to
put up to
Yep.
move on from there. Thank you, councillor. And I don't think there actually was a point of order. Councillor Foreman, would you like to move your motion?
Absolutely.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Foreman. Do I have a second to Councillor Gallows, the seconder? If there's no further discussion to the matter, I'd like to put the matter. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Okay. That takes me over to the next page, which is, could I have someone move and second that we move into confidential matters of council, please? Moved, Councillor Foreman, seconded, Councillor Davis. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. And now our crowd has left us. Yep. We might just
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In confidential, 15.2-24/328, rescission motion put forward regarding the proposed lease at 314 Albury Street. That rescission motion was passed, and the motion that came subsequently to it was that council A, advertised 314 Albury Street, Murrumborough, being lots E and F in the deposited plan 5113, for a lease of 2 years with a further option of 2 years via Fleming's Real Estate, Ray White, Royal Harden and Jim Cusack Property. If each company agrees to partake in the leasing process, these companies have been listed as they operate in the Foreman Harden Shire Council area, and the property pertains to that area. Involving more agent provides more transparency. B, that offers being invited for 30 days before closing, where a report be provided from each participating agent to council regarding the offers they have received. C, receive a report on the top 3 offers from a monetary perspective in regard to what businesses on the open market are willing to pay for the weekly lease of the building. D, decide which businesses should be given first option to take up the lease, and E, resolve to enter into the lease period described above. And F, in the event the property fails to lease, it will be provided to the Rotary of Harden for the peppercorn rent for 1 year. 15.3, 24/329, request for quote 49, supply and disposal of 3 gravel trucks. Council resolved that the receiver note the report. B, accept the quotation from the successful tenderer for the supply and delivery of 3 trucks, and accept the quotation also for the trade of the assets, and accept the quotation for the trade of the further assets, and then delegate to the General Manager the authority to execute all necessary documentation associated with the disposal and purchase. 15.4-24/330, request for quote 50, supply and disposal of 1 road patching maintenance truck. Council resolved to note the report, accept the quotation from the successful tenderer for the supply and delivery of an Road HD series road maintenance unit truck, and C, accept the quotation from Pickles Auctions for the disposal of the current asset, and D, delegate to the General Manager the authority to execute all necessary documentation. 15.5, request for quote 56, supply and disposal of 1 bitumen spraying truck. Council resolved to receive and note the report, delegate authority to the General Manager to undertake a selective request for quotation for the supply and disposal of the bitumen spraying truck in accordance with section 55 subsection 3.1 of the Local Government Act, and C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation. 15.6, award of contract RFT 33 Arboriculture Mowing and Slashing Services Panel. Council resolved to receive and note the report RFT 33, and then award the contract to the successful tenderers. C, conditionally award RFT 33 for 1 of those panels, subject to successful induction into Council's management systems. And D, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation to effect that. 15.7-24/333, award of contract RFT 32, provision of cleaning services. Council resolved to receive and note the report, award the contract to the successful tenderer, and delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with the said tender. 15.8-24/334, award of contract RFT 11, supply and delivery of bulk fuel. It was resolved to receive and note the report and award the
contract to the successful tender for the delivery of fuel, and to award the contract to supply and delivery of the bulk fuel equipment necessary for that. And then E, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much for that brief summary of transpired in closed council. On that note, thank you to one and all in for attendance, and I will call the meeting closed at 7:47. Thank you very much, and we look forward to catching up in a very short, quick